Hey everyone, All in Arrowhead here. Week 18 officially closed the book on the regular season, and as always the finale delivered a perfect mix of tension, chaos, and clarity, with playoff races unfolding simultaneously across the league and almost every kickoff carrying postseason weight. From early windows that started to set the tone to late afternoon games that forced teams and fans alike into full scoreboard watching mode, this was one of those weekends where the entire season funneled into a few defining moments that shaped the bracket from top to bottom. Seattle beat San Francisco, which means the Seahawks didn't just win the NFC West. They locked up the number 1 seed and home field advantage, flipping the entire NFC playoff picture and sending a clear message heading into January, while the 49ers had to settle for a wild card path after coming up short in the biggest spot. Denver took care of business as well, which means the Broncos officially clinched the number 1 overall seed in the AFC, turning what had been a multi-team race for positioning into a decisive finish that gives them the clearest road to the Super Bowl. Before I forget, we have some eliminations to take care of, don't we? Tampa Bay beat Carolina, which means this one came with a twist, because both teams were relying on outside help, and with Atlanta failing to lose, it was the Panthers who ultimately emerged as NFC South champions, sneaking into the playoffs at 8-9 despite the loss, while the Buccaneers were eliminated after doing their part but not getting the result they needed elsewhere. Pittsburgh beating Baltimore meant the Steelers claimed the AFC North in a true winner-take-all divisional showdown, slamming the door on the Ravens and securing a home playoff game in the process. Around the rest of the league, wildcard hopefuls either punched their tickets or saw their seasons end based on razor-thin margins, late scores, and tiebreakers finally being resolved, locking in matchups that feel tailor-made for postseason drama. After months of build-up, Week 18 gave us final answers, set the field, and handed us a playoff slate packed with momentum, grudges, and rematches. And now it's time to turn the page to January football. Let's get into the games! Los Angeles enters this wild card matchup after closing the regular season with a 37-20 win over the Cardinals in Week 18 that gave the Rams the number 5 seed in the NFC, a game in which veteran quarterback Matthew Stafford was at his sharpest of the season by throwing 4 touchdown passes and finishing among the league leaders for scoring, while his top receivers like Puka Nacua and Colby Parkinson delivered consistent production, finishing with 143 rushing yards on the day. Their offense struck quickly when it mattered and built enough separation that the defense could play ahead and limit Arizona's opportunities. Defensively, Los Angeles made timely plays as well, including an interception that swung field position and contributed to a second-half surge that sealed the victory and built confidence heading into the postseason. Carolina, meanwhile, arrives having clinched the NFC South and the number 4 overall seed, despite a 16-14 loss to the Buccaneers in Week 18. A hard-fought defensive battle in which quarterback Bryce Young finished 24 for 35 with 266 yards and 2 touchdowns, but turnovers and situational miscues at critical moments, including a pick and a fumbled flea flicker attempt that flipped field position in Tampa Bay's favor, kept the Panthers from getting enough sustained offensive success to close out the win outright. The Panthers' ground game was limited, but their defense forced stops late and kept the contest within reach in the final minutes, a performance that ultimately was enough to secure the division via tiebreaker help from Atlanta's result. This wildcard matchup sets up as a contrast between a Rams team that finished strong offensively with multiple big passing plays and defense-generated momentum, and a Panthers club that leaned on opportunistic defense and a competitive passing attack to win the division, And I'm going with the Rams to continue their late season efficiency and take advantage of their offensive rhythm to win this wildcard game and advance to the divisional round, as Los Angeles' balanced attack and experience under pressure gives them the edge in what should be a tightly contested playoff opener. Green Bay arrives at Soldier Field as the number 7 seed after finishing the regular season with a 16-3 loss to the Vikings, a game in which the Packers notably rested many starters and struggled to move the ball, and were outgained 363-121, and rotating backup quarterback Clayton Tune, who completed 6 of 11 for 34 yards, with most of the offense stagnating against Minnesota's active front that dominated early and held Green Bay to a single field goal as its lone score. Chicago, meanwhile, secured the number 2 seed in the NFC despite a 19-16 loss to Detroit, a contest in which the Bears found themselves in a tough offensive start and trailed for most of the game. But quarterback Caleb Williams sparked life late, throwing for a total of 212 yards and 2 fourth-quarter touchdown passes, connecting with Jahdae Walker and Colston Loveland to bring Chicago within striking distance before the Lions hit a game-winning field goal as time expired, showing both Chicago's resilience and some defensive vulnerability over the course of the afternoon. This matchup is a classic division rivalry with very different end-of-season vibes. Green Bay's offense never clicked in its finale, playing catch-up with backups and failing to sustain drives, while the Bears demonstrated the ability to rally and generate big plays through the air, even in adversity. And I'm going with the Bears to leverage that late-season offensive confidence and host field advantage to win this wildcard game, as Chicago's playmakers and rhythm under pressure should give them the edge over a Packers unit still trying to find its groove heading into the postseason. Buffalo comes into this wildcard matchup as the AFC's number 6 seed after finishing its regular season with a 35-8 win over the Jets in Week 18, a performance that saw the Bills dominate from the outset even while resting several starters and leaning on their depth, as backup quarterback Mitchell Trubisky threw for 259 yards and 4 touchdown passes, connecting with targets like Dawson Knox and Gabe Davis. And the ground game was effective with Ray Davis and Ty Johnson contributing meaningful yardage, while the defense held New York to just 1 touchdown and kept the pressure on throughout, allowing Buffalo to control both tempo and field position from start to finish. Jacksonville enters this game as the AFC South champion and number 3 seed after a commanding 41-7 win over the Titans to close the regular season, a game in which Trevor Lawrence delivered an efficient day, completing 22 of 30 passes for 255 yards and 3 touchdowns, and spreading the ball to weapons like Parker Washington and Brenton Strange, while the Jaguars' defense shut down Tennessee's offense, forcing turnovers and even scoring on an Antonio Johnson interception return, as Jacksonville built a decisive lead and clinched the division behind a performance that highlighted both offensive balance and opportunistic defense. What makes this wildcard matchup particularly compelling is the contrast in styles from Week 18. Buffalo looked well-rounded and deep even without its starters, making big offensive plays and smothering a weak opponent, while Jacksonville showcased the kind of explosive scoring and defensive takeaways that propelled them to the AFC South crown and helped them finish with one of the league's best records. I'm picking the Jaguars to leverage that momentum and balanced attack at home, with Lawrence's efficiency and the Jaguars' ability to create turnovers, to edge past a Bills team that, despite its depth and production, will be challenged to match Jacksonville's intensity on both sides of the ball. San Francisco enters this wildcard matchup as the number 6 seed in the NFC after finishing the regular season with a 13-3 loss to the Seahawks in Week 18, a game where the 49ers offense, which had been one of the league's most potent late in the year, was thoroughly disrupted by Seattle's rush defense and front pressure, holding star running back Christian McCaffrey to just 23 rushing yards on 8 touches, and limiting quarterback Brock Purdy to 127 passing yards with an interception and no touchdowns, while the Seahawks rushed for 171 yards between Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet and controlled the line of scrimmage to clinch the NFC West on the top seed. Despite the loss, San Francisco did enough over the course of the season to secure a playoff spot, and its defense showed resilience in forcing situations where the Seahawks had to earn every yard, while the offense will seek to rebound from a tough showing in a hostile environment. Philadelphia, meanwhile, secured the number 3 seed in the NFC, even though it closed its season with a 24-17 loss to Washington, a game in which the Eagles rested many of their starters and still managed to move the ball between the 20s with enough efficiency, mixing short completions, timely runs, and field position control, but couldn't quite take control as the backup saw extended action, and the Commanders' opportunistic defense made crucial stops that led to their scoring chances. The Eagles' defense, even without its full complement of personnel, still showed its ability to limit big plays and keep opponents in manageable spots, and over the course of the season, Philadelphia earned its seed through consistent complementary football and situational execution. This wildcard matchup thus contrasts a 49ers team that struggled to get its explosive elements going against elite run defense in Week 18 with an Eagles squad that, even in a loss, flashed enough complimentary play to remind everyone why it finished near the top of the NFC standings. And I'm picking the Eagles to use their balanced mix of experience, efficient playmaking, and home field comfort to get the edge in this wildcard game in advance, as Philadelphia's ability to force enough stops and create timely big plays should be the deciding factor in a tightly contested playoff opener. Los Angeles enters this wildcard matchup as the AFC's number 7 seed after closing the regular season with a 19-3 loss to the Broncos in Week 18, a game in which the Chargers noticeably rested multiple starters, including QB Justin Herbert, and rotated depth players, resulting in backup Trey Lance going 20 for 44 passing for 136 yards with 1 interception, and adding 69 rushing yards as Los Angeles managed only a late field goal while Denver leaned on field goals and defensive scoring to secure the win. Despite that quiet offensive finish, Los Angeles still finished 11-6 and clinched a playoff spot thanks to its body of work earlier in the season, and the defense showed glimpses of bend but don't break play even against a team that really needed the victory. New England arrives as the number 2 seed after a dominant 38-10 win over the Dolphins in Week 18, a performance defined by a punishing ground game and timely taking of the football away, as Ramondre Stevenson rushed 7 times for 131 yards with 2 rushing touchdowns and caught a third score. Travion Henderson punched in 2 more touchdowns, and quarterback Drake May did enough through the air, 14 of 18 for 191 yards and a touchdown, before being rested late in the game to help the Pats secure their high seed. New England's defense also contributed by forcing turnovers by limiting Miami's scoring, putting the Patriots in control early and allowing their offense to operate in rhythm throughout. This wildcard matchup thus presents a contrast between a Chargers squad that had its starters sit out much of its finale and will need to rediscover the balance that got them into the playoffs, and a Patriots team closing the season with momentum on both sides of the ball. And I'm picking New England to capitalize on its run game, depth, and complementary defense to advance past Los Angeles in this opening postseason round, as the Pats' high-octane yet controlled attack gives them the edge in what should be a fundamentally strong performance. Houston enters this wildcard showdown as the AFC's number 5 seed after closing the regular season with a 38-30 win over the Colts, a game in which the Texans leaned on remarkable consistency from kicker Ka'imi Fairbairn, who tied a franchise record with 6 made field goals, including the game winner with 12 seconds left. An efficient early play from C.J. Stroud, who accounted for 2 touchdowns before being rested at halftime, while defensive tackle Tommy Togiai's late fumble return added insurance as Houston extended its winning streak to 9 games and secured its postseason spot. Offensively, the Texans mixed timely passing with productive drives that kept Indianapolis' defense off balance. And even when starters sat in the second half, backups such as Davis Mills were able to manage the clock and limit mistakes in a close finish that emphasized Houston's depth on both sides of the ball. On the other sideline, Pittsburgh arrives as the AFC's number 4 seed and AFC North champion, after a dramatic 26-24 win over the Ravens in Week 18, in a game where veteran quarterback Aaron Rodgers connected on a clutch 26-yard touchdown pass to Calvin Austin late in regulation and the Steelers' defense made key stops, while defensive field position and takeaways kept the contest tight throughout. The Steelers leaned on balanced offensive contributions from Kenneth Gainwell's rushing touchdown and timely field goals by Chris Boswell, and although a missed extra point kept the margin close, Pittsburgh's resilience in the face of several lead changes ultimately sealed the division crown. This wildcard matchup showcases a Texans team that found ways to win with consistent scoring from special teams and depth players against a Steelers club that rode veteran leadership and clutch execution to a division title. And despite the Steelers' ability to execute in clutch moments, Houston's momentum, balanced offense, and confidence in special teams gives them a clear edge in this matchup. And I'm picking the Texans to pull off the upset, using their late-season surge and well-rounded attack to advance past Pittsburgh in the wild-card round.